The phone was ringing in my brother Frank's garage when Patricia stood outside that courthouse in February, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Live however you want, Harold. You'll figure it out." She had Marcus on her arm, yeah, her personal trainer, 20 years younger, and they both looked at me like I was some old piece of machinery they were hauling to the scrapyard. Name's Harold Parker, but everyone calls me Hal. I'm 74 years old, and I never thought I'd be starting over at this age. Not after 38 years of marriage. Not after 35 years supervising the Ford plant in Akron. But here I was, holding divorce papers that left me with $165,000, a beat-up Silverado, and whatever clothes I could fit in garbage bags. Patricia got the house, our house, the 4-bedroom colonial where we raised her daughter from her first marriage, where I fixed the leaky faucets and mowed the lawn every Saturday for nearly 4 decades. She got the investment accounts too. Somehow those got reorganized into her name only during the 18 months she was going to the gym 3 times a week with Marcus. You know how you trust someone completely after almost 40 years. How you sign papers without reading every line, because why would your wife of 4 decades try to screw you over? Yeah, well, that's how a man who spent his whole life being careful about safety protocols at the plant ended up homeless at 74. The warning signs were there, looking back. Patricia started dressing different around 2021. New gym clothes that cost more than my work boots. She lost weight, started wearing perfume I didn't recognize. She began taking phone calls in the other room, keeping her laptop closed when I walked by. Started talking about personal growth and finding herself at 66 years old. But at our age, I figured, what could it be? We were 70-something years old. We had high blood pressure and creaky knees. The most exciting thing in our week was going to Cracker Barrel on Sunday after church. I thought maybe she was just trying to stay healthy, keep active, shows what I knew. Patricia was planning her escape from our marriage like a military operation. She spent 18 months moving money, refinancing the house, and apparently getting legal advice about how to leave me with as little as possible, while I was at the plant dealing with production schedules and union negotiations. She was restructuring our entire financial life. At Ford, we had a saying, "Trust but verify. Check the safety protocols twice. Review the production numbers 3 times. Always have backup systems." But at home, I just trusted. After 38 years, why wouldn't I? The divorce proceedings started in October when she sat me down at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten 30 years of breakfasts, and told me with the particular cruelty of someone who'd rehearsed their lines that she wanted a divorce. She said she'd met someone, Marcus, her trainer at the gym. She said she'd been unhappy for years. Said our marriage had run its course. I remember the maple tree through the kitchen window was already turning red. I remember the coffee going cold in my cup. I remember that I didn't cry. I was too stunned to cry. What I didn't know then was that Patricia had spent those 18 months doing something far more calculated than having an affair. The investment accounts I thought we shared had been quietly consolidated into accounts bearing only her name. The house we'd owned jointly had been refinanced with paperwork I'd signed without fully understanding what I was signing. My attorney was a decent guy named Dennis Rodriguez, recommended by my union rep. Dennis did what he could, but Patricia had planned this with the kind of patience I'd never given her credit for. She had better lawyers, more time to prepare, and frankly more money to spend on the fight. The settlement hearing was a nightmare. Patricia's attorney painted me as a controlling husband who'd managed all the finances and left his wife with no knowledge of their assets, which was rich, considering she'd been the one handling our portfolio for the last decade while I focused on keeping the plant running. But the damage was done. The investment portfolio that should have been split 50-50 had been so thoroughly rearranged that recovering my share would have required litigation I couldn't afford. The house went to Patricia. I got a settlement that amounted to roughly $135,000, my Silverado, and my personal belongings. Walking out of that courthouse, Patricia on Marcus's arm, watching them get into the silver Lexus that used to be our car, I felt something I'd never experienced in 35 years of plant work. Complete helplessness. On the plant floor, there was always a solution, always a way to fix what was broken. This felt unfixable. Frank let me move into the apartment above his garage. My little brother, though he's 69 now, still had the steady hands of an electrician and more common sense than I'd apparently been using. That first night, sitting in his kitchen with a beer and the reality of my situation, he asked the question that was eating at me. "Hal, what exactly happened to all that money you two had?" Good question. Patricia had been talking about diversification, moving things around, optimizing returns. She went to investment seminars, read financial magazines, always had some new strategy she wanted to try. I figured she knew what she was doing. Turns out she did know exactly what she was doing, preparing to leave me with nothing. The apartment above Frank's garage was small but clean. A bedroom, a kitchenette, and a bathroom that smelled faintly of motor oil and old wood. From the window, I could see the street where we'd grown up, where our dad had taught us both how to work with our hands, how to fix things, how to be reliable. Lying in that narrow bed those first few weeks, I'd run the arithmetic of my life. 74 years old, 65,000 in savings, which sounds like decent money until you calculate how long it has to last. Social Security of $1,847 a month, not bad but not great. My Ford pension was solid, but I'd taken early retirement at 69 when Patricia's real estate income made it seem smart. The fear was physical. I felt it in my chest when I woke at 3 in the morning, a tightening that wasn't quite a heart attack but wasn't entirely unlike one. I felt it when I drove past houses for sale and calculated with horrible precision that I couldn't afford any of them, not in any neighborhood where I'd want to live. That's when Frank said something that changed everything. We were sitting in his kitchen one evening in March watching the news, and he mentioned casually, "You know, Hal, when Rebecca died back in 2019, didn't she have some kind of business going? Something about patents, Rebecca. My first wife. We were married from 1975 to 1983, 8 years that ended amicably, when we realized we wanted different things. She was brilliant, an aerospace engineer who worked on defense contracts out of Cincinnati. Rebecca was the kind of person who could look at a technical problem and see solutions nobody else could imagine. After our divorce, we lost touch completely. Not because there was bad blood, but because that was how things worked back then. You moved on, started fresh. I heard through mutual friends over the years that she'd done well professionally. Something about guidance systems, military technology that eventually found commercial applications. But that was distant information, the kind you file away without much feeling. When Patricia and I married in 1985, I was focused on building our future together. Rebecca was part of a different chapter, one that felt completely separate from my life at the Ford plant and my marriage to Patricia. Frank's comment stuck with me, though. That night, lying in the narrow bed in his garage apartment, I started thinking about timelines, about money that might have been forgotten or overlooked. If Rebecca had developed valuable patents, if there was some kind of estate. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done since my plant supervisor days. I started investigating systematically, went through every box of old papers I'd managed to save from the house. Tax returns going back to 1998, insurance documents, Christmas card lists. You'd be amazed what information ends up in the oddest places. That's when I found it. A letter from 2006 from Anderson and Associates, estate planning attorneys in Cincinnati. I remembered getting it vaguely. It had arrived during a crazy time at the plant when we were dealing with a potential strike and production delays. I'd read it quickly, understood it to be something routine about Rebecca's estate planning, and signed some kind of acknowledgement form. The letter was formal, dense with legal language. Something about being named as a beneficiary in an irrevocable trust, subject to certain conditions requiring acknowledgement of receipt and understanding. I'd thought it was just paperwork, maybe Rebecca being thorough about loose ends from our marriage. Now, sitting in Frank's kitchen with my coffee getting cold, I read that letter 3 times. Then I called the number on the letterhead. Anderson and Associates was still in business. Took 3 transfers before I reached Victor Chang, the estate attorney who'd handled Rebecca's affairs. When I explained who I was and mentioned the 2006 letter, there was a long pause on the other end. "Mr. Parker," he said finally, "I think you need to come in for a meeting. Are you available tomorrow?" The drive to Cincinnati felt longer than the usual 2 hours. I kept thinking about Rebecca, trying to remember details from our marriage that might give me some clue about what this was all about. She'd always been careful with money, methodical about planning. Even back then, she was thinking about patents, intellectual property, long-term financial security. Victor Chang's office was in one of those downtown buildings that screams serious legal business. He was maybe 60, calm and professional, the kind of lawyer who chooses his words very carefully. He had a thick file on his desk with Rebecca's name on it. "Mr. Parker," he began, "your ex-wife Rebecca established an irrevocable trust in 1998. You were named as the primary beneficiary under specific conditions." He paused, studying my face. "The current value of the trust is approximately $52 million. I swear the room tilted sideways. 52 million. I sat there staring at him, trying to process the number. "I'm sorry, did you say 52 million? "Yes." The trust was funded by proceeds from defense technology patents Rebecca developed during her work with aerospace contractors in the 1990s. Guidance systems that were later adapted for commercial use in automotive and aviation industries. Rebecca had always been smart about technology, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined. While I was focused on production schedules and union negotiations, she'd been creating intellectual property worth tens of millions of dollars. What were the conditions? I asked. Victor Chang consulted his file. You must be unmarried at the time of collection, which you now are, and you must complete a formal identity verification process, which we can handle. There's also a 60-day contestation period during which any party believing they have a competing claim can file a legal challenge. Who would challenge it? Rebecca's nephew, Alex Stevens. He's the son of Rebecca's late brother. Alex is currently represented by counsel and has expressed an intention to contest the trust. I thanked Victor Chang and told him I needed time to think. Drove back to Akron in a daze, my mind spinning with possibilities and questions. $52 million. From Rebecca, who I hadn't spoken to in 40 years, who apparently remembered our marriage more fondly than I'd realized. Frank was working in his garage when I got back, rebuilding an engine for a neighbor. I told him what I'd learned, and he just stopped what he was doing and stared at me. Jesus, Hal. 52 million? From Rebecca? That's what the lawyer said. But there's going to be a fight. Her nephew wants to challenge it. Frank wiped his hands on a rag, thinking, well, you've been in fights before? Remember the union negotiations in '98? You prepared for that like you were going to war. He was right. The '98 negotiations had been brutal. Management wanted to cut benefits. The union was threatening to walk. I'd spent months preparing, gathering data, building relationships, anticipating every possible argument. We'd ended up with a contract that protected our people without shutting down the plant. This felt similar, but the stakes were higher, much higher. That night, I called my buddy Carl Johnson from VFW Post 847. Carl had been a machinist at the plant for 30 years before retiring, and he understood how to approach complex problems methodically. We'd served together on the Union Grievance Committee, and I trusted his judgment. Carl, I need some advice, and I need you to keep this between us for now. I told him about the trust, about Alex Stevens and the challenge. Carl listened without interrupting, the way he always did when someone was explaining a technical problem. Hal, sounds like you need to treat this like a plant problem. Gather your information, understand your opposition, build your case piece by piece, and get yourself a damn good attorney. But finding a good attorney wasn't as simple as I thought. The first 3 lawyers I called either didn't handle estate disputes or wanted retainers I couldn't afford up front. Finally, Carl connected me with Dennis Rodriguez's cousin, Maria Rodriguez, who specialized in inheritance law. She agreed to meet for a consultation. Maria's office was smaller than Victor Chang's, but she had the no-nonsense attitude of someone who'd fought plenty of battles and won most of them. When I explained the situation, she leaned back in her chair and studied me carefully. Mr. Parker, this is going to be expensive and potentially ugly. Alex Stevens has corporate finance experience and family money behind him. Are you prepared for that kind of fight? I thought about Patricia standing outside that courthouse, about 38 years of marriage dissolved because I'd trusted someone completely. I've been preparing for fights my whole life, just never knew this one was coming. Maria nodded. Then let's get started. First thing, we need to document everything. Every conversation, every contact, every piece of paper. Think of it like quality control at the plant. Nothing happens without a record. That made sense to me. Back to basics, back to what I knew how to do. I started keeping a detailed log, just like incident reports at Ford. Date, time, participants, exact words when possible. The first entry came sooner than expected. Within a week of my meeting with Maria, Patricia called me. First time since the courthouse. Harold, she said, sweet as pie. I heard you might be coming into some money. That stopped me cold. How the hell did she know? Victor Chang's office wouldn't have told anyone. Alex Stevens' attorneys might have run background checks that pulled up my marriage and divorce records, but that still didn't explain how Patricia found out so quickly. Where did you hear that? I asked. Oh, you know how people talk. Akron's not that big a town. Her voice had that false concern I'd learned to recognize over 38 years. I think we should talk, Harold. Face to face. I don't think we should, I said. Don't be difficult. This affects both of us. No, Patricia. This has nothing to do with you. We're divorced. Whatever Rebecca left me has no connection to our marriage or our settlement. There was a pause. Then her tone shifted, getting colder. Harold, you're not thinking clearly. These inheritance cases can be very expensive. Legal fees can eat up everything, even if you win. I just think there might be a way to handle this that's better for everyone. Translation: give me a piece of the money, and I'll help you avoid a legal fight. Patricia, listen carefully. You have no legal standing in this matter. If you contact me again about Rebecca's trust, I'll have my attorneys treat it as harassment. I hung up and immediately called Maria Rodriguez. She listened to my account of the conversation, then said something that made my stomach drop. Hal, how did she find out? That information shouldn't be public yet. Good question. Over the next few days, I started putting pieces together. Called a buddy who still worked in the Ford office. Asked him to quietly check if anyone had been asking questions about me. Sure enough, someone claiming to be a paralegal had called asking about my employment history and pension status. Then Eddie Martinez, my neighbor who lived 2 streets over from Frank, mentioned seeing Patricia's Lexus driving slowly past Frank's house twice in 1 week. Eddie was a retired postal worker with the observational skills of someone who'd spent 30 years noticing what didn't belong in neighborhoods. Something was being coordinated. Patricia was gathering information, but why, and how was she connected to Alex Stevens' challenge? The answer came in a form I wasn't expecting. Anthony Stevens called me, introducing himself as Alex's older half-brother. He wanted to meet for lunch, just to talk things through like reasonable people. I recognized the approach immediately. The friendly voice, the appeal to common sense, the suggestion that we were all on the same side. In union negotiations, this was usually the setup for an offer that wasn't as good as it sounded. Anthony, any communication about the trust needs to go through my attorney, Maria Rodriguez. Her number's available online. The friendly tone disappeared fast. Mr. Parker, I hope you understand that fighting this is only going to make things harder for you. Alex has resources, and he's determined to protect his family's interests. I've been handling hard things for 74 years, I told him. Good afternoon. But the pressure campaign was just getting started. 3 days later, Patricia showed up at Frank's place with Marcus in tow. They had a casserole, a damn casserole, like food was going to make me forget how she'd screwed me over. I didn't invite them inside, stood in the doorway and waited to hear what they wanted. Patricia did most of the talking. She was worried about me. These inheritance cases were complicated, expensive, emotionally draining. She'd done some research, talked to some people who understood these situations. Maybe there was a way to resolve everything quietly, without lawyers and court battles. Marcus stood slightly behind her, trying to look supportive but mostly looking uncomfortable. He was younger, stronger, but he wasn't stupid. He could see this wasn't going well. Patricia, I said finally, what exactly do you want? The mask slipped then, just a little. I think, given our history together, given what we built over 38 years, that I deserve some consideration in this windfall. There it was, the real reason she was here. She wanted a piece of Rebecca's money based on nothing more than the fact that we'd been married when the trust was sitting there growing in value. Rebecca's trust was established in 1998, 13 years after we got married. It has no connection to our marriage, our finances, or our divorce settlement. You have no legal claim to it. Legal claim isn't the only thing that matters, Harold. There's such a thing as doing the right thing. The nerve of this woman, after systematically hiding assets, restructuring our accounts, and walking away with most of what we'd built together, she was talking to me about doing the right thing. The right thing would have been not stealing from me during our marriage. Leave the casserole if you want, but this conversation is over. They left without the casserole. I stood in Frank's driveway watching their Lexus disappear around the corner, and I felt something I hadn't experienced since the early union fights. Cold, calculating anger. Not the hot rage that makes you stupid, but the kind of focused determination that helps you win. I called Maria Rodriguez and told her everything. About Patricia's too quick knowledge of the trust, about the mysterious paralegal calling Ford, about the coordinated pressure from both sides. Hal, Maria said quietly, I think they're working together. That suspicion turned out to be exactly right. Maria hired a forensic accountant, Dr. Nancy Foster, who specialized in estate fraud. What she found over the next 6 weeks was better evidence than I could have hoped for. Phone records showing regular communication between Patricia and Alex Stevens' legal team over a 2-month period. Email exchanges discussing my financial vulnerabilities and likely settlement range. Most damning of all, altered documents that Alex's attorneys had submitted suggesting Rebecca had expressed doubts about the beneficiary designation in 2015. Dr. Foster's analysis was ice-cold professional. The metadata shows these documents were modified recently, Mr. Parker. This isn't sloppy paperwork. This is deliberate fraud. Meanwhile, the VFW guys rallied around me in ways I hadn't expected. Carl Johnson helped organize all my documentation. Eddie Martinez kept watch on the neighborhood and documented Patricia's surveillance visits. Tommy Walsh, who'd worked in the plant's administrative office, helped me understand the legal procedures. These weren't just drinking buddies. These were men who'd served their country, worked honest jobs, and understood what it meant to have each other's backs when someone was under attack. The formal hearing took place in June at Victor Chang's office in Cincinnati. Alex Stevens looked miserable, a 45-year-old corporate finance guy who'd probably convinced himself he was protecting family interests. His attorney, Robert Walsh, had the overconfident demeanor of someone who expected to win on procedural grounds. And there was Patricia, sitting at their table like she belonged there. Victor Chang presented our case methodically. Rebecca's trust was ironclad. My identity was verified beyond question. The 2006 acknowledgement was properly notarized and witnessed. My unmarried status was confirmed by court records. Then Maria Rodriguez dropped the hammer. She presented phone records showing coordination between Patricia and opposing counsel. Email exchanges proving they'd shared confidential information about my financial situation. Most devastating, Doctor. Foster's forensic analysis showing the altered documents. What we have here, Maria said in her quiet, deadly voice, is tortious interference and document fraud. We're prepared to file criminal complaints with the county prosecutor. Robert Walsh went pale. Alex Stevens put his head in his hands. Patricia sat there with her mouth open, finally understanding that her careful coordination had been documented and was about to destroy her. The room was silent for maybe 30 seconds. Then Robert Walsh cleared his throat and said, "We need to discuss this with our clients." The contestation was withdrawn 8 days later. Alex's attorneys filed papers so fast they probably broke land speed records. The altered documents got referred to the county prosecutor's office. Patricia's involvement got reported to the Ohio State Bar for coordinating with attorneys to interfere with estate proceedings. The money transferred to my accounts in August, $52.3 million after taxes and legal fees. Victor Chang walked me through the final numbers in his office, then shook my hand and said, "Rebecca would be proud of how you handled this, Hal." I sat in the parking garage of his building for maybe 20 minutes before I started the car. The number was so large it felt abstract, but what didn't feel abstract was the knowledge that I'd fought a sophisticated conspiracy, and one using nothing but patience, documentation, and good legal help. I bought a house in September. Not a mansion, just a solid 3-bedroom ranch in a neighborhood with decent people and good bones. Frank moved in with me. We're both getting older, and it makes sense to stick together. The VFW guys come over every Thursday now instead of meeting at the post. We play cards, watch baseball, talk about grandkids and old times. Sometimes we help other veterans navigate legal problems or bureaucratic nonsense. Word gets around when older guys need assistance, and we've got the time and experience to help. As for the antagonists of my story, justice followed its own timeline. Alex Stevens settled with county prosecutors for financial penalties and professional censure. His career in corporate finance took a significant hit. Document fraud leaves marks that follow you in professional circles. Robert Walsh got probationary review from the Bar Association. Not career-ending, but enough to make other attorneys think twice about facilitating third-party interference in estate proceedings. Patricia lost her real estate license. Turns out coordinating with opposing counsel to defraud estate proceedings violates professional ethics standards. Marcus moved on to a younger client with better financial prospects. She's living in a condo now, alone, probably wondering how her perfect plan unraveled. I don't feel sorry for any of them. Actions have consequences. That's something you learn supervising a plant floor for 35 years. Everyone's accountable for their choices. Rebecca had been planning ahead back in 1998. Probably figuring I might need help someday. She was always better at long-term thinking than I was. I keep her picture on my desk now, a photo from 1978 when we were both young and thought we understood how life worked. The thing about getting older is that people count on your willingness to be counted out. Patricia figured I was just another confused old man who'd cave under pressure from lawyers and complicated paperwork. Alex Stevens thought family money and corporate connections would intimidate a retired plant supervisor. They miscalculated, badly. 35 years of managing production lines teaches you patience, thoroughness, and systematic problem-solving. You learn to document everything, verify information independently, and build airtight cases before making your move. Most importantly, you learn that the best defense against people who underestimate you is simply refusing to underestimate yourself. So here I am at 74, sitting on my front porch with Frank, watching the sun go down behind the oak trees. I've got $52 million, a solid house, good friends, and the satisfaction of knowing I fought smart and won clean. That's not a bad way to start the next chapter. What would you have done in my position? When Patricia showed up with that casserole, when Anthony Stevens called with his friendly voice, when you realized the whole thing was coordinated. Think about it. Because sooner or later, someone's going to test whether you'll stand up for yourself or let them walk all over you. The question isn't whether you're tough enough to fight, it's whether you're smart enough to win. Document everything, trust your instincts, and remember, the people betting against you are counting on you to bet against yourself. Don't give them that satisfaction.